So the first topic for this episode would be, what does being a real man mean today versus back then? What do you think that difference looks like?
Um, Back then, it meant doing what it takes to get the job done, perseverance, going through, taking it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to take stuff, eat it, even though you don't agree with it or like it, but you do it to get the job done. Um, but back then, you had to do it, or you wouldn't reach your goal.
Right.
Your paycheck, whatever it involves, you wouldn't reach it. So
Yeah.
I think that involved being a man, being accountable to whatever that the job description you've been given.
Right.
And that goes from family to job. The whole nine. You got to do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Okay. I have a question. What kind of jobs, like, did you work back then? Or did you see, like, your father working, or family, period?
I've done everything from door flipping, door inspecting, throwing hay, working in a phone center. I've been from the country to the city. Just doing whatever I have to do. To get a paycheck.
Right. Okay. So, like, in those times, I know a lot of people, especially you being a black male, I know a lot of black males work for the white man. Like, how was that relationship? You know what I mean?
It wasn't fun. That's the reason I'm in Dallas.
Yeah.
Because the experiences I went through in Louisiana were all demeaning and calling you boy and disrespecting you. But you had to eat it, because you couldn't go to the next job because the same thing happened on the next job.
Right. Yeah.
It was a lot of racism and things that was not right. But you knew it going in, so you just had to deal with it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, do you think that being a real man back then is the same for today, or do you think things have changed?
No, I think things have changed a lot. Back then, some of the things our generation has done, some of the insults and disloyal, acts from police and all that we've taken has opened up some doors for y'all. Now there's more exposure now. Media has brought out, and so now things have to be done more discreetly if you're going to do some dirt. So I think doors have been opened now, and y'all making progress, but it's not nearly like it was.
Yeah. So, okay. So today, what kind of like men do you think are being produced today? In today's world.
Well, I think
what do you see? What's your perspective?
Unintentionally, I think the men being produced today are softer in one way, maybe the physicality, but wiser in other ways. More outspoken. Because they're not afraid of what's going to happen. Our generation, we were quick to be quiet because we were afraid of getting fired or getting put in jail. Stuff like that. And the young folks today, they're not nearly as scared. They're more outspoken and brave when it comes to that. They're not fearing any type of repercussions.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's good? Do you think we're smarter, or you think we're just softer? What do you think?
I think you think you're smarter, because your exposure is limited,
Okay.
The more you're exposed to, the wiser you'll be, and surely I've been exposed to more than someone half my age has been exposed to, but, and also, if you flip the coin, you're, smarter technology-wise, as far as learning things I didn't learn and seeing things perhaps from an angle that I wasn't afforded the ability to look at.
Okay.
So I think it has its pluses and its minuses.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree with that. Okay. I like that. I like your perspective on that. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I believe being a real man, it's being a hardworking provider. You know what I mean? just first taking care of yourself, you know, and then and putting yourself in a position where you can take care of other people's, you know, being a protector, you know, like I said, not only for yourself but for other people. You know, I feel like men should be brave. You know, and I do kind of agree with you. As much as I wouldn't like to, I do agree that this generation is a little softer. You know what I mean? We are like more outspoken, but yeah, it's like you say, it's as good and as bad about it. You know, everything. You know, kind of thing. But I definitely like your perspective on that for sure. I think that's different. You know, how it's cool. It's just cool to see how back then things were and how far we came. You know, how things changed and the ways they changed. You know, but we're gonna go ahead and hop into this second topic. We're gonna talk about accountability and who has more of it, like between the older generation and the newer generation. What do you think about that?
Oh, I definitely think the oldest generation had more accountability, you know, because the weight was heavier, you know, and we had to do things y'all don't have to do because y'all have us, you know.
Yeah.
Y'all have work that we put in and foundations we've laid, you know, things like that, you know, to fall back on. We didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't have that. We had to deal with things like they were, you know. But y'all share 20th century accountability, but
Mm-hmm.
back then, you know, we had families, you know, we our children, and so if we didn't do what needed to be done, we didn't eat, you know. Our children didn't eat, you know, our wives and stuff, and so we had to do stuff we didn't want to. We had to bite bullets we didn't want to bite because so many people were dependent on us, and the man, that's the whole thing. The man knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he feeds off of that. He knows we're not going to go but so far because we have families, so they have leverage, you know, on us to deal with, you know. But now, you know, y'all have done legwork. You know, you've made progress and opened up avenues we didn't have, you know. Yeah. So y'all have options, you know, and things like that, you know. So I think y'all have done some pretty good work, you know. But as far as we're concerned, you know, we didn't have all those options. We had to either do it or die.
Makes sense, yeah. I can actually agree with that. You know, I feel like today's generation has a lot more distractions, but it just depends on how you use them. You know what I mean? Because they can be very reliable and stuff, but I feel like a lot of those distractions we try to blame those for like not getting stuff done sometimes, procrastination, being lazy, you know, all the things we can reuse to not be lazy and to, you know, actually be productive, but we just don't use it in a productive way. You know, for like example, cell phones, technology, social media, you know, all these things can be really great for us. It's just sometimes we don't always use them in the best way, the most healthy way, you know, and that goes for anything in life, you know. But that's basically my point of view on that. You know, when it comes to accountability, who has more of it, I probably would definitely say I think the older generation has more of it too. You know, I agree with your perspective on that for sure.
But I think as you go along, like I say, as the more exposure, the more experience that the younger generation gets, you know, they'll become more accountable because they'll see. Right now, I don't think they fully see the things they're losing, you know, the ground that they're not covering, you know. I don't think they fully see it, but the farther along they go, they'll see the opportunities that they lost, you know, because they weren't accountable with the opportunities that they had. Yeah. You know, so it takes time and experience and exposure, you know, to feel the way I'm feeling. I keep saying exposure because, see, I'm from the country. Mm-hmm. And I have an uncle that lives out here, and every summer I will come out here, and my exposure to what he was doing, he was running his own business and working and had a family, you know, and wealthy. And compared to us, we was on food stamps, you know, welfare, and wasn't too many opportunities. You had to do what everybody else did, get on the back of the truck with the white man like everybody else. Mm-hmm. You know, so the exposure, when I saw what he was doing and how he did it and the passion he had for doing it, it made me believe it could be done, you know. So as soon as I graduated, I wanted to come out here. You know, a lot of people say I want to go to college. I want to come out here and then go to college.
Right.
But I want to come out here where there's more opportunity. So
Makes sense.
that exposure made a difference in my life.
Yeah.